And welcome to the sports writers of the Salem News, Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, and Nick Giannino here with us. I'm Bill Newell from MSO News Sports. And gentlemen, this week the governor made the announcement about reopening the state of Massachusetts. Pretty slow reopening, though. We're into phase one, I guess, at this point. But I don't know what the impact is for local sports at all. Certainly nothing big right away.
I'm just excited I can go get a haircut. They opened up salons, I guess, right?
No.
They will be. They will be.
Monday, yeah.
Yeah. Although Monday's usually a day off for salons, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine, they were going to open. They've been closed so long, but see.
True. Yeah, as far as the local sports go, it's a little bit unclear. I mean, I would think maybe in that phase two that they might be able to start in small groups. I mean, hey, if they're not doing anything professionally yet, at least in this country, I can't see that they're going to start, hosting Little League games or youth soccer tournaments or anything like that. It'll be a slow, steady progression. It would be nice if we could get some things up and running, at some point this summer, and maybe cast an eye, for us anyway, towards the what would we consider to be the fall season, where hopefully high school sports can start as normal, and I'll use air quotes to say that, not literally, but normal, whatever the new normal is. Is that the buzzword for 2020? The new normal? Yeah. I mean, obviously there are going to be some changes, but hopefully you want to just have something to look forward to that we can start those up in the fall, at least as planned. So, small steps.
It'd be nice just to be able to, get out, and they're going to open public parks and fields and things like that. So get outside and, maybe I'll actually be able to shoot a basketball now without the boards on the top of the rims there.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't planning on going here with this, but I think that the schools, so much of what we do is tied to the schools, right? And the schools really have to, low priority athletics in schools, right? But I think that as we start to see places like open up, the businesses that do youth sports and things like that. I mean, the travel programs, the AAU, the independent tournaments. So much of that stuff has vultured away the quality of high school sports. And if they don't allow high school sports to come back while these things are operating, this could really accelerate the death of high school sports. So they really need to be careful, as far as people just doing AAU and travel teams instead. I mean, if they sack high school sports completely, there's enough kids that leave and quit to play soccer and hockey and basketball at the club level instead. So if the clubs are running and the varsity teams aren't, I mean, that could be really, really detrimental to the health of high school sports in general.
The thing with high school sports is it's all tied to the schools. And now, you're hearing more and more things about schools working on this remote learning piece or distance learning piece into the fall in some way. So whether that means, I heard a few proposals and whatever. Not all the kids go to the school on the same day. They distance learn. They still do that. They have space, but sports then would fly in the face of that. You know what I mean? You're trying to create no contact with students when in fact athletics would be kind of just the opposite. And so I just feel that using a sports term based, fall sports has a couple of strikes against it. Even if school does come back in, depending on what school looks like in the fall for the districts.
Well, I can't imagine too many football coaches would want their skill players to show up on Monday and then take Tuesday off while the linemen come in Tuesday and work. So yeah, there is going to have to be something worked with it. There's a ton of stuff still to work out. Willie raises a good point. I don't think there are as many limitations on let's say travel teams or AAU type teams that are, whereas high school sports are tied, it's right in the name, they're tied to the high school. Those other ones are money makers. That's how those people make their living. And they are probably not going to take the same precautions or to the nth degree that the high schools will before putting their athletes out there, because their bank account depends on that. So families are going to have to make individual choices if and when it comes to that, what they want to do. And again, I agree with Willie that if the high schools can't find a way to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, there's a chance that, especially in some sports, it could really be, if not a death knell, then a crippling blow to some of those sports. If so many kids are leaving to do, I can get a full season of soccer in, whereas I'm only going to play 6 or 8 games for my high school this year because of the way things are set up. So that's a fine line that you have to walk between what's best for the student athlete, what's safest, which to me is the number one priority. And in the case of these AAU or travel teams, where's the money coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I take issue. They're not going to do something that's not safe. I don't think. Yeah, I don't want to name any programs, but I mean, if it's not a case where it's not going to be safe. They're not going to do it for profit. I mean, but if they can do it the same way that Major League Baseball is, MLB is, and NBA, whatever, but the schools have, a whole different set of masters to serve, so to speak. I just think in the long term, it's really going to hurt the schools. And I think over the last 10 or 15 years, we've seen the quality of play really decline as a result of these type of things. And you're taking a risk of shoving it down that slope a lot faster if you're not willing as a school to take the same precautions, that they're going to take in all these other places. I don't think that these other places are going to be unsafe. I mean,
But wouldn't you say, though, that to get back to the point you first made, that it is about the money? I mean, yeah, they want to play and they want to get kids out there and they want to give them the opportunity to play, but that is financially motivated.
I think it's just different masters. I think they have a different set of rules to worry about. I mean, you got a guy who owns a baseball, I mean, I don't want to name names or because I haven't talked to these people or whatever, but Jim Jones owns the batting cages and has a travel team. Well, he's immersed in baseball all the time. He knows how to clean the balls. He's going to do the same stuff. He's not doing it to make people sick and make a buck, whereas the school is worried about all this school stuff, and the baseball is a low priority for him. He doesn't think about it. So I think it's just a matter of priority and imagination more so than safety.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there.
Do you guys think that there could be, and we might have touched on this before, but a scenario where some sports would be allowed to play, say in the fall and at the high school level, and some wouldn't? Like would football, with all the contact, might not be able to do it, but something like track or golf, where they're not really interacting too closely with each other, might be able to do it. Would that be something that could happen, you guys think?
I think everything's on the table. I mean, golf would be in good shape as far as that goes, I think. Cross country, maybe they stagger times that people start. So
Right.
you start every, one racer every, 20 or 30 seconds. And if you pass somebody, there has to be a wide swath around them kind of thing. It would be more difficult in those contact sports such as field hockey, soccer to a lesser degree, but soccer and certainly football.
Right.
Having said that, I mean, I think the State Football Coaches Association is going to do everything they can to try to put all the guidelines in place so that things are safe. Going back to Willie's point, they're not going to put somebody, they don't want to play so badly that their kids and as a result, opponents are going to be put in danger by somebody who may be sick or whatever. I mean, maybe this is where we have, hey, look who's here.
There he is.
Maybe this is where we have, the temperature checks you hear about or things like that. I mean, I'm sure this is something that athletic directors and principals are all talking about now. How can we do this safely? What is the safest way for us to do this? And the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, or maybe nobody wants to think about, is a better way to say it. But what if things kick off and then we find out like a weekend or two in that somebody has gotten sick. And then it's like, well, how many people has that person been in contact with on his team
Right.
or an opponent's team? And what opponents did those opponents play in? Would they have been infected? No, that's a slippery slope right there.
Yeah. It's not just the games too, practices. Sometimes there's more interaction there. So.
Right.
And those locker rooms aren't built. They're not spacious locker rooms. These
Right.
many of the high school locker rooms and facilities and so on. In fact, obviously, just the opposite. And the bus travel too for football anyway. I mean, some sports are a little smaller. You could sneak a golf team, spread them out pretty well on a bus. I think, right, Nick?
Yeah.
We took the, for lack of a better term, we used the short bus back in the day.
Yeah.
For golf team. There's only about 10 of us, so we piled on there. But
hey,
I mean, I guess, you can maybe your JV can't practice with. I mean, because when you think about the numbers, how many kids are there on a soccer team? 20, and how many kids are in a classroom? 20. So if you split half and half, I mean, there's no reason why a kid can't go to practice even if they weren't in school that day. If your school block schedule is say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you can still go to practice on Tuesday. There's still only going to be 20 people on the field, So, I mean, I think if they stagger the times, you just got to get creative. Football's going to be a little different. And to Nick Giannino's point, I mean, my instinct is it's all or nothing, but I would rather the golfers and the soccer players play than not. But I think if you start saying some are okay and some are not, you're really running the risk of getting a lot of people really angry on social media and protests and things like that. So it's really like what's the greater good? What are people going to be willing to put up with? It's kind of, I have mixed feelings about it because it's like I want whatever we are allowed to have. But at the same time, for social unrest, probably all or nothing is probably the way it almost has to go. And, then you get into Title IX considerations because if field hockey is not allowed, I mean, okay, boys and girls soccer, boys and girls track, but golf is golf. Girls can play golf. I don't know. It's there's a whole swath of issues that you can rabbit hole go down if it's not all or nothing. So that's really hard decision.
And as Bill said, these facilities, we have some wonderful facilities in the area with a lot of newer buildings and field houses and things like that. But there's not enough room in a lot of those rooms for social distancing guidelines. I mean, it's not like schools are going to be erecting plexiglass in between every locker or kids, let's say on a soccer field that aren't in the game aren't going to necessarily stand 6 feet apart from each other on the sidelines. Again, ton of questions here, and we're only in May, but we're going to need all this time just to figure out. It's almost like trial by fire, like what works, what doesn't, what is the safest way to do things here. How long do we need to do it for?
I think at some point we just need to put Dana White in charge of the MIAA and let's go. I mean, we're talking 3-4 months from now. I mean, you just have to get off. I put in my column about fighting today. At some point as a society, we have to get off our stools, so.
I think we're going to learn a lot. I mean, we've been 8 weeks into this, at least 8 weeks, I guess. Right. And we still have at least 8 weeks and maybe another 4 before even beginning to think about the scheduling of high school football back in September. So we still got a little time, and then in the meantime, we have Major League Baseball will be making decisions. We still haven't heard from NBA, NHL with anything really definitive as far as I know.
Now that's all money. I mean,
no. And then it
would be great to play, but let's be honest. Any decision made there is going to be number one, financially driven. That is the number one reason that any of those sports would be picking back up.
And then you've got college football too. That's a big one. And college football, not is going to be a big thing. I mean, you got big time college football, and then you've got really the D3s, schools like an Endicott, a Bates, a Bowdoin, those kinds of schools around New England. So who knows?
You know how you do things that you might not normally do during quarantine, and I don't mean like crazy stuff, but just why not? I get an hour to kill here, whatever. I watched, now Bill, I don't know if you would know this, but you guys would probably know about this. I watched Big Cat play football on his whatever Xbox as
Oh, yeah.
as Coach Doug's the other day for an hour because I had nothing to do, and I'm like, why not? This looks interesting. So I'm watching a guy playing a college football video game with a coach that he made up, and I'm going to be honest, I was entertained. I thought it was funny.
Was he any good? I heard him on the podcast, and they had Joe Burrow on.
Yeah.
And Burrow was giving him like tips on how to, cheat that game almost, run the same play every time, and it works like clockwork. Is he any good? I didn't watch him, but
yeah, passing game. He was at least in the game I saw. He won in a shootout. Passing game was good. Defense, they went right down the field on him. His defense stinks.
Yeah.
But if he can outscore everybody, then he's all right. So.
Is he playing the computer or against other humans?
No, I think he's playing the computer. It's like he's the coach. And, if you have a successful season, you can sign with this club. It looks like he's bounced around a little bit. He was with Texas Tech when I saw him, and they beat, was it TCU or was it Oklahoma maybe? I don't know. It was another one of those Big 12 schools. But, he won it he scored with like a minute and 10 left to go ahead by a touchdown. The other team sliced right through him like a hot knife through butter to score. And he actually managed to get in field goal position, and he kicked it to win it. So, and he provides commentary while he's doing it, and he, people send him plays and stuff. So it was funny. I liked it.
Good stuff.
that's cool.
We haven't heard from Nick Kukuru here, the sports editor of the Gloucester Times, but we let him get up to speed on this rambling discussion that we're having here.
Well, that was my fault for being so punctual today.
Well, yeah.
Came off the top rope.
I was going to say, were you getting the latest from the Fiesta Sports Committee?
Yes.
No, I wish I could say such a thing. I was pumping gas.
So a pandemic is the only thing that could ever stop the greasy pole. Is that what you are saying?
Exactly. Yeah, but might come back in September, so we'll see. Maybe it can't.
I wonder
Water
if
might be a little warmer then.
How does that work? Do you have to wipe down the grease in between? Like, what's the sanitary? Could that be? Is hand sanitizer slippery enough to replace the grease? I don't know.
That's true. That's a question they're gonna have to answer. I know the grease is biodegradable. Whether it's sanitizing, I don't know.
Willie, I
They're
think
going
they're
to
need
need green suits.
I think they're going to need 3 months just to come up with that many greasy poles. Everybody gets their own pole. So you walk out, you fall, they put another pole up, the next guy goes.
Well, so the whole chain, right, that they do with the statue, the St. Peter statue, right? I mean, you can use the lengths of the dollar bills or whatever is hanging, you can, that's how you can make sure that the guy carrying it behind you is 6 feet away. You have enough, it's already built in to measure that for you. So that's a big plus.
Exactly. We can find ways. There's ways to get around it, right? At least I'm hoping so. I'd just like something interesting to cover at this point.
Right. Gloucester's
yeah.
town, so.
One word, baby. Viva.
Yeah, we have Fight Island, and now we have St. Peter's Island, and then
You know what I see happening here is we'll have it'll all be fixed by October 1. All right, everything will be fixed October 1. So high school football will start. High school soccer, all the high school sports start October 1. By the way, I'm just making this up, folks. And then college football starts October 1. NHL and NBA resume. Major League Baseball, has their all-star break October 1. Then they start the second half of their season. So we'll have everything going, including the NFL. There's another one. The NFL is talking about starting their training camps very soon here. I mean, not their training camp soon, but starting on time. So
Brady was out there today.
We don't want to be starting fall sports October 1st. One of the great things about the fall season is that it starts when it's still nice out.
Yeah.
We don't want to have that taken away from us.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think,
especially Nino there doesn't like going out to football games when it's like under 55 degrees.
that must be a basketball thing. All the basketball guys don't like being outside.
He's the new Mike Grenier.
I guess I'm spoiled. I don't know. Even with you guys in the winter, you're sitting in the cold hockey rinks. So
I don't even think about it.
Yeah,
I literally don't even think about it.
I'm not a cold weather person in general, so I guess that plays a role too. But
I don't think any of us are. But I don't know. You just deal with it, I guess.
I do think MLB and the NHL are going to finalize their plans within the next 10 days or so. And then once that stuff starts, I think we're all going to realize how normal, everything is when they start playing and people aren't dropping dead, just like the fighters aren't dropping dead and the wrestlers aren't dropping dead. I mean, I think with more time to digest, once they finalize their plans and get going, it's kind of going to make everybody feel better about what hopefully we're going to see in the fall.
Well, for all those horse racing fans out there, I heard the Belmont was going to be held in June. It'll be the first time it's the first leg of the Triple Crown. They're going to do that with no fans, but it's something.
Kind of cool. NASCAR, I guess, happened. I keep saying UFC is the only thing going, but the NASCAR people, the one NASCAR person that watches this podcast will be mad at me. So I should probably mention that. I mean, I'm sure you guys watched all the stock cars, right?
I don't even know what a stock car is.
Yeah, what is that? No upgrades, right?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's what they call the cars. It's just NASCAR. I don't know.
Oh,
I wasn't trying to sound like an expert.
Don't throw those fancy terms at me there, Hamlin.
Now, no more inside stuff.
Yeah,
really.
please.
Okay, just dumb it down for us, please.
Yeah, I didn't know that was insider thing there. I guess
my knowledge of NASCAR begins and ends with my kids back in the day watching the Cars movies.
Oh yeah,
Tomater and that kind of stuff.
Good movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let me wrap it up here, and we have a few more minutes. But Little League Baseball. So what do we think about that one? And the other one would be the Navigators and the Futures League, which was supposed to start the end of May, which with probably now 10 days away about 10 days away. They were scheduled to start, but that's been indefinitely delayed. So what do you guys think about maybe Little League Baseball? I guess it could start at the end of June, but it's not definite.
I know the people I've talked to locally with the Gloucester and Manchester Essex leagues, they want to start up as soon as they can. They're kind of, roaring and ready to go right now. So, I mean, anybody getting out there is good news. So I hope we see it. I hope we even if it's a shortened regular season, I just hope we see something. And luckily for that sport, they're not under the similar deadlines that some of these high schools were at. I mean, they could go deep into August and, nobody would bat an eyelash. So that they got time. So.
That's what I'm hearing up here too. I mean, they get the Facebook pages for Peabody and Danvers and Peabody West, and they're looking, at phase 2, and so they're hoping, maybe we can do a couple practices the very final week in June and start a few games right after the 4th of July, and that's all intercity stuff. No word yet on a district tournament, but I mean, you could certainly do a small district in the month of August, and it wouldn't hurt anybody. I mean, I think they'll probably take their cues from MLB as far as how often to change out the ball or things like that. I mean, no stealing in Little League, right? So you don't have to hold the runner on. That keeps the kids a little further apart, things like that. But hey, it's all up to the governor. I mean, if we hit phase 2, I think that at least they're gonna give it a shot, and that's cool. And the Navs. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with that. They haven't talked about I don't imagine fans would be allowed. I think the stadiums are in phase 4, which can't happen until I think at the minimum,
like late July.
Sometime in August.
Late July, early August, yeah.
Ask
Gus. Maybe Gus has the scoop.
Ooh,
wait,
that's nice.
Hey, they went out and signed a couple of guys that were supposed to play in the Cape Cod League. The Cape Cod League's already canceled, so they scooped these guys up. I mean, if they're able to play, they're going to have a really good ball club.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask Gus, too. I just thought of this because, the Navs could stream their games, right? So, I mean, these area high schools, are they equipped to stream the games? Are we going to be covering events? We're going to be covering games from our Zooms, I mean, St. John's Prep streams a lot of stuff.
Interesting.
But,
I didn't really think about that, but that's a possibility.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, we're talking Gus Balow, not Gus Duggerton.
Right, yeah. Although I would like to see a
Baylor.
matchup between the two Gusses, perhaps, in football. But the Gus Balow would have to be the BC Eagles, and then,
No, Gus would have to be the University of Kansas. That's where he's headed.
Well, I just figured, Prep, Double Eagle, Saint. I mean, if you go the Prep, you have to be the Eagles, right?
True.
Yeah, with these leagues, just as a final note, with Sal Frelick is back again this year with the Naz if they were to play. And then you also have Sean Lawler from Florida, who was on last year's team, is going to play again because his summer stuff got canceled, and he's going to transfer because he's going to go do grad school up in Maine this year. So he's just a few hours away from that later on at the University of Maine. So he'll be able to play another year because he'll have eligibility. But his regular school from Florida didn't have a grad program. So, hey, on that note, I'm looking at our time, but go ahead, Phil. Yeah.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if we got like a 30-game NAV season and, something short like that.
Yeah.
Which it would be great, I think, if that would have happened, if people were allowed to go for whatever reason, in August, I think they'd get really good crowds because people would be thirsting for something to do and catch some good ball. And I think that would be really good if they could get out there and play. The Little Leagues, I know everyone is anxious. I think there are going to be a lot of family decisions made, whether they want their kids to play or not. But, hopefully those that do, if they do play, everything goes off without a hitch. Maybe they don't, they take away like tagging the runner or something. Everything has to be a force play from now on, something like that. There are a lot of different scenarios where maybe Little League Baseball and Williamsport could hand those down nationally, what they do. But it would be nice if we could, before the summer's out, see something going on, whether it's baseball or something else.
It's too bad we don't have the Boston Lobsters anymore. I feel like they could probably get going,
I used to enjoy going to those matches, honestly.
Fun.
They were good.
Tennis is awesome. Yeah, they had some doctor on Felger and Maz like 2 weeks ago talking about how tennis should be the next thing. It's outside, it's respiratory, not much respiratory risk in tennis, he said.
There you go. There they are, the sports writers from the Salem News. And, of course, there's Nick Kukuru from the Gloucester Times. And I'm Bill Newell. And we'll step aside and see you again soon.